70 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
You know, we use this music for almost every guest. I think this is the first time the music actually matches the topic.
I think so too.
Years ago, I don't know how long it's been, but you and I were driving. We went to a meeting, and it was for the All Children's Playground here in Ocala. And we left the meeting, and we were just talking about whatever happened in that meeting. It was at night.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, overhead, and I am not making this up, there was this bluish-greenish thing that just went right over us. I mean,
huge.
Now, the noise I just made was for the sake of radio. It didn't make any noise, but I had to have an audible way of expressing that it just flew by so fast. And then we thought, well, what was that? It must have crashed like a block away. But we didn't find anything, and we went on the turned on the radio, and other people were saying they had seen it as well. Mm-hmm. And then the next morning in the news, people saw it all the way up to, I think, Boston.
Yeah,
right. Whatever it was, who knows what it was? And so after that point, and that's got to be easily going on 30 years ago.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago. And so when I hear stories about UFOs, I always remember that, and I think, well, maybe, and someone says, have you ever seen a UFO? I say, maybe I did. I don't know what I saw. Mm-hmm. There's a movie coming out, and it is called Alien Intrusion, Unmasking a Deception, and I think it's coming out on the 11th. We're going to find out right now from Gary Bates. He's the CEO of Creation Ministries and the writer and producer of Alien Intrusion, and he's written a book, I think, called Alien Intrusion also, right? It's a book and a movie, right? Yes. Good morning, Gary. What a fascinating topic. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, it is a fascinating topic, and as you were describing your experience, I was just thinking I should say to you, welcome to my world, because whenever I tell anybody I'm involved in this, they always give me their UFO story.
Oh, is that right? See, I would imagine that's true. So, in other words, we all have them, huh?
Well, some polls are always extrapolated to a larger number, but a poll called the Roper poll in the 1990s claimed that over 20 million Americans had seen a UFO, and that up to 4 million Americans had even been abducted by aliens. And, one of the things I found is when I started to investigate this, I suppose everybody has an opinion before we really look at it of what we think it is, and we tend to interpret the sightings and the experiences based upon our worldview and what you think's happening. But the fact is there is something going on. And, even in the case where people claim they've been abducted, I don't believe they're obviously being abducted by aliens, but there certainly is something going on with these people. And our conventional view, obviously portrayed by Hollywood, is aliens flying around in their faster-than-light spaceships, etc.
Yeah.
That's the Hollywood version. The reality, unfortunately, is a lot more disturbing. When people have these encounters, their lives are changed, they're traumatized. So it is kind of a really serious subject. So, my aim with producing the movie is to bring the truth out about the matter and to kind of help people who've had these terrible experiences, and in the case of folks like yourself who've just seen things, to help them have some closure on the subject.
See, the thing we saw, I could have written it off easily as a meteor or whatever, but the fact that it was reported all the way from Florida to Boston, at least, I thought, well, gosh, I wonder what it was. And I guess we'll never know what it was. But what have you seen, and what do you think is happening? Are they actually from Earth? Are they actually from another time? What are they?
No, well, I come at it from a Christian perspective. I'm the CEO of a Christian ministry, but the one thing I can say confidently here, and I'm not, as I'd say, elephant hurling, is that anybody who's seriously researched it, Christian or otherwise, comes to the same conclusion, and that is we would agree about the nature of the phenomenon, or although we might say we disagree about its origin. And the one thing that we all agree on is they are not visitors from a distant planet or a distant star system visiting us, in their hyperdrive spaceships. There's about 150 sightings every day, and we can explain about 90 to 95% because, to be honest, it's lay people looking up, and we mistake meteors and satellites and ball lightning, lenticular clouds. So the thing is that, even the government has been investigating this. Just in the last couple of weeks, you've heard that the Pentagon have been spending $22 million a year looking at strange aerial phenomena, and they released the footage of an F-18 Navy pilot chasing one of these.
Right.
And you can hear him because he couldn't even catch it. And then suddenly it disappeared from view. It disappeared from screen. And so the most popular view today is one called the interdimensional hypothesis, that these entities, and not everybody thinks that they're aliens, I certainly don't, but they're actually manifesting in our realm from, if you like, another dimension or another realm. And the big problem we have as earthbound creatures is if that is actually happening, we're going to be limited by science, etc., in terms of trying to test that. I mean, you and I can't go to that other realm or dimension, but it's clear we're dealing with entities and visitors from this other realm and dimension that are crossing over.
Okay, and I am also a Christian, and although I'm not a Bible scholar in any way, when somebody says you believe in extraterrestrial life, I always think, well, the Bible teaches about heaven. Is that another place? I don't know. That would be extraterrestrial by definition, I would think.
Well, it's a very interesting perspective because I think not only Christianity but all the great religions of the world, if you look at their writings and their books and their beliefs, they believe in what you and I would call a spiritual dimension. And so, in fact, this is right in the wheelhouse, if you like, of the Christian worldview because, unfortunately, our cultural view of the spirit realm, what we might be calling angels, for example, is one that they're some sort of ethereal spirit beings with fairy wings. But, the Bible never mentions them like that. When they appear in our realm, they're physical, they eat, they're mistaken for men, they affect our environment, our weather, they've even killed people on occasions. And any serious UFO researcher would just be going, check, 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 as I say those things, because that exactly describes what's happening with the UFO phenomenon.
Wow. And so
it's almost the same morphology.
So the movie comes out on the 11th, and is it in the theaters? Is it on TV? Where do we see the movie?
Thank you. Yeah, it's in 730-plus cinemas or theaters all over the United States, and people just need to go to fathomevents.com. They'll see it on the front page, or they can type in Alien Intrusion in the search engine, or they can go to alienintrusion.com, and what you do is you put in your zip code to find a theater near you, and you can book tickets. But it is one night only, and these events tend to get sold out. It's event cinema, so I want to encourage people, if they want to see it, they need to book their tickets in advance, not be disappointed on the night. fathomevents.com.
When you were creating the documentary Alien Intrusion, did you feel like somebody was looking over your shoulder? Did you have some kind of spooky moments in your filming?
Well, I can tell you, that would take me an hour to tell you, but in the 25 years I've been researching this, I certainly have had some very strange occurrences, not so much with seeing things, but with the people that I meet. And some of the things that they tell you would literally make your hair stand on end. Again, secular researchers, I like to mention a guy called John Macker, a psychiatrist from Harvard. He wanted to study the abduction phenomenon because he thought it would make a great clinical study. And in the movie, we show an interview with him on Oprah. And he said, look, I thought these were people that are having psychological delusions, but I can tell you as a medical professional, he said fantasy does not present the symptoms in the way that these people are having. He said the only thing that presents this way is real experience, trauma. And basically, people who have these experiences are suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome. And he ended up becoming a believer because of the hundreds of people that he interviewed who were not connected to each other, came from different spheres of life. He became a believer that something really was happening to these people, and he ended up writing a book called Abductions based on his interviews.
Oh, my gosh. So I did find it in our community. For our listeners, it'll be at the Hollywood 16 Theater. Everybody knows where that is, on 27th Avenue. So it's alien intrusion from a biblical perspective. Is that fair to say?
I think it is. What we're doing, what I'd like to say, though, is we're not shoehorning a Christian perspective onto the data. About half the interviewees are non-Christians. One of the things I find in the UFO community is we're all looking for answers because it's not really a testable
Yeah.
type of science. And so we tend to work together, and that's why I said at the beginning we would all agree about the nature of it. We might disagree about the origin of where it's coming from, but I would like to think that the movie is evidence-driven, factual-based. You know, we even flew to South Korea to interview the state director there, or the national director for MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. He's an American living and working over there. He's interviewed over 400 people who claimed to have these contacts or abduction experiences.
Wow.
So it's strongly evidence-based. We put our conclusion forward, and people are free to either agree or disagree. But I think we do present the evidence fairly.
All right, next Thursday, right? A week from tomorrow at the Hollywood 16th Theater. It's called
January the 11th.
Alien Intrusion. Thank you so much for being on the air with us. That is a fascinating topic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Thank you.
Right. Thanks for the time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Here is your 30-second news brief. The Ocala Police Department is reporting that one of their officers has taken his own life. The Ocala Salvation Army has made room to accommodate more people than normal because of the extreme cold temperatures in our area. Marion County deputies say they have officially ended their 4-day search for a cave diver who went missing on December 27th, and the University of Central Florida football champions are back in Orlando after their historic Peach Bowl